Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the GameQuest. Happy game day or happy game day eve. And we got a good show coming up here today for the next 30, 45 minutes. I'm Jarrett Guarantano alongside Grant Ramey. Former Tennessee quarterback Jarrett Guarantano is going to join the show as Tennessee gets set for a matchup on the road at Kroger Field. Everybody going to go checking out Kroger Field this weekend against the Kentucky Wildcats. This show is presented by our friends over at Spivey, Cain and Spivey LLP. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is TN Trial Lawyers, specialize in criminal defense, family law, and personal injury. If you have a need, pick up the phone today for a free consultation. You can dial the phone number. It's going to be at the bottom of the screen as well. That is 423-245-4185, 423-245-4185, or check them out online at Spivey, Cain and Spivey LLP.com. If you have a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is TN Trial Lawyers. And right there is the phone number. Right on cue, right? There's the phone number on the screen if you need it again, 423-245-4185. All right, Grant, obviously a massive game coming up this weekend. Off the top, I want to ask you a question. Is everybody, there's been a lot of other things happening in Knoxville this week, so I feel like this football game's been on the back burner, obviously. Everybody's looking forward as well to Duke and Tennessee playing an exhibition on Sunday. And, of course, you're coming off a loss. And so I just think that, everybody's just assuming it's going to be a win, and it should be a win. Tennessee is a far superior football team. But you can never assume anything in this league, especially this year. Is nobody giving this game the respect that it's probably deserves in terms of you're still going on the road in the SEC, you're still coming off a really tough loss to Alabama, and if you want to play in the postseason in terms of the playoffs, this is a massive game because you can't afford to lose it, obviously.
Yeah, probably not. Been a little distracted this week in Knoxville. Obviously, there's still a lot of people talking. When you're talking football, you're talking about what happened at Alabama and kind of the disastrous stuff that happened down there. So probably not getting the respect it deserves. It's also Tennessee's won at Kroger Field in Lexington a lot over the history of the football program, obviously, but also with Josh Heupel. But those have been close games, one-possession games. I don't think they've had more than a one-possession win in Lexington since I don't know how far you'd have to go back, but it's been a while, 2017 and beyond. So probably not getting the respect it deserves. You look at last week, what Kentucky did at home against Texas. They won that game in basically every statistical category you could possibly win that game except for the final score, and they found a way to lose that game. So it's not a football team that can't hang around, obviously, and play well in spurts. It's just a matter of can they find a way to win a football game. And if you're Tennessee, you just got to go up there and handle business the way you have pretty much traditionally and figure out a way to do it because it's a must-have.
Yeah, and again, we covered Tennessee. We get to watch college football sparingly, not as much as any of us want, obviously. So I haven't watched a lot of Kentucky, but you look at what it did against Texas, and I don't think Texas is very good, but Texas still has a pretty solid defense, and that defense played well. 16-13 is the final score in overtime, and then you, Ole Miss, you lost on I guess that game was at home. For some reason, Kentucky always plays Ole Miss very well, very well, right? Especially last year, and they lost by a touchdown back in week 2, and so those are two impressive losses, if you want to phrase it that way. They got blown out at Georgia and then at South Carolina, and I don't think South Carolina is good at all. That game was 35-13. 2 wins on the year, coming in non-conference play against Toledo, where they won by a touchdown or won by 8 points, and Eastern Michigan, where they blew them out. This is just not a very impressive football team, but again, it's a team to where if you go out there and you make mistakes and you shoot yourself in the foot like Tennessee's done on the road, and Tennessee did on the road last week, it's a game that's going to be much, much, much harder than what it should be. Again, you look at it on paper, you look at these teams. The eyeball test as well. Tennessee is clearly the far superior team. I think this is one of the worst Kentucky teams Mark Stoops has had, honestly. And I think he's had a couple of pretty decent teams, right? I don't think this one is. Does a few things well. They play hard, though. I'll give them that. They play hard, and they're going to be motivated because this is the biggest game on the schedule every year for Kentucky. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, there's been so much other thoughts this week and things going on, and just the assumption it's just Kentucky. I'm not trying to say Kentucky's a world beater because I don't think Kentucky's very good, but this team, any team, specifically this team, can't afford to have any type of that mindset. I think the maturity from the leadership on this team, the veteran leadership, it better have been on full display this week.
Yeah, I think it's there's been too much nonsense with this Tennessee football team, and I say that you're a field goal away from beating Georgia. If you make that field goal, you win that football game. That's a huge win. You give Mississippi State a ton of short fields. You turn it over. You got a bunch of mistakes in Starkville. You found a way to win the football game. That's great. Arkansas, if you just close that game better, the final score looks much different, and you feel differently about that game. Alabama, the mistakes you couldn't get out of your own way, the disastrous end of the first half, all that stuff. Like, this team is so hard to figure out in terms of what their ceiling is, what their floor is, how they can reach their ceiling, all this stuff that we just haven't seen it yet. And this is the point in the season where your back's against the wall. If you want to be a playoff team or if you want to be in the playoff conversation in December, you better start winning football games. You better go on the road. If you can go on the road and win this football game, pass this test, cut out the nonsense and handle business the way you can handle business, and then you go to November with, 4 games, 3 of them are at home, and the other one's at Florida against the interim head coach after Billy Napier got fired. Like, you're setting yourself up to go on a run and to be in that conversation. But we've got to see this team handle its business, and we just haven't seen that for different reasons in different games. At some point, it's got to happen.
You do the work, so I don't have to, but I love every Sunday or Monday whenever you go through and you look at the ESPN matchup predictor and, where Tennessee, where the FPI gives Tennessee a percentage chance of winning each and every single game. Tennessee's favored to win every single game left on the schedule, according to the FPI. Tennessee would be a betting favorite against every game left on the schedule if it was today. So that's something. It's certainly not everything. It doesn't necessarily mean anything, but that is something. And then you look at the playoff predictor, the all-state playoff predictor or whatever over at ESPN.com. If the playoffs started today, Tennessee would have an 18% chance. But if Tennessee goes 10-2, wins over, you hope will be 2 ranked wins, 1 for sure if you win it, Oklahoma, and then, of course, Vanderbilt at the end of the year. At 10-2, 2 ranked wins, potentially you're looking at a 90%. Do you think that percentage is right? Do you think it's too high? Is Vanderbilt going to be ranked? Does it matter if Vanderbilt's not ranked by then? Your thoughts on Tennessee making the playoffs. Obviously, it's the path seems simple. You got to win out. I know that's not simple, but
right.
Do you think Tennessee has a 90% chance of making the playoffs at 10-2?
I would think so, because we only have 1 year of evidence, and last December everybody was trying to pick apart 3 lost teams and which 3 lost team could sneak in and get that last spot in the playoff. It just depends on what kind of the rest of the landscape looks like. Like, you have to put yourself in that position at 10-2 to be in the conversation and to be in the debates and all the arguments and stuff. But it also depends, is Notre Dame 10-2? It looks that way after they beat USC last week. Is whatever else team 10-2. What's Georgia Tech look like at the end of the year? What's Virginia look like at the end of the year? Like, they've got an impressive record and not much left on the schedule. Miami stumbled against Louisville Friday night when nobody thought Miami was going to stumble. They thought Miami was one of the best teams in the country. So I think that 90% is pretty accurate, because if you're 10-2, you're going to be in the conversation. It's just going to depend on what other teams are 10-2, how many 9-3 teams are there, how many 10-2 teams are there to compete against, and at that point, you're just comparing resumes.
And again, you need to be rooting for Oklahoma the rest of the way,
right.
because except when Oklahoma plays Tennessee, because Tennessee does not have a signature win. That's why I was like everybody will never root and cheer for Alabama. I get it, but like last year, after you beat Alabama, and seeing your schedule, it's like, boy, you kind of hope Alabama, goes on a run here and looks like it's one of the best teams in the country, because that would make your win look even better. That'd be more talking points. It would be a more resume booster. So I look at that kind of the same way with Oklahoma. I know it's dealt with injuries. I think Mateer looks like a shell of himself right now. That's good for when Tennessee plays him, right? But we'll see if he can bounce back this week. But certainly you want Oklahoma, and I think that defense is legit. It's shocking. I know we're not talking Oklahoma here, but it's shocking to me that they have no run game. They have 2. Right. I thought Jay Knott was going to be good. They have Barnes from last year. Like, I'm just shocked they can't run the football. But anyway, you want to kind of root for Alabama in that regard, and you kind of want to root for Vanderbilt too. It's weird saying all this, but again, you're in the era of the college football playoff where these things kind of matter. So I find that interesting.
I think you might not have a signature win, but you also don't have a Arkansas 2024 loss on your resume. Like, you're not going to get dinged very hard for a loss at Alabama, obviously, and for a overtime loss at home against Georgia. And you might not have a signature win in terms of like a top 10 opponent or a top 15 or whatever the rankings are, whatever you consider a signature win. But there's something to be said for handling your business and going 10-2 in the SEC and having those only losses be at Alabama at home against Georgia. So maybe not a signature win, but also not a disastrous loss on your resume. I think that helps Tennessee.
That is true. You look at this matchup. We'll look into specifics here in a moment after we talk with Jarrett Guarantano. Just the overall series again. It's completely one-sided. 85-26-9, the advantage, and I love the fact that Tennessee's oldest. Correct me if I'm wrong here. If I'm wrong by 1 year.
Right.
Tennessee's played Vanderbilt more times, but Tennessee's oldest rivalry is Kentucky.
I think that's correct.
Dating back to 1893, and I think they played out Vanderbilt like in 1894 or what. It's like 1 year.
Right.
It's wild,
and
man.
Let's bring back the beer bell, right? That's the conversation every week this week if nothing else was going on. And nothing was distracting everybody. Nope, they're not bringing it back. It's in the founder suites behind glass. It's on display, so all the high-dollar people can look at it and enjoy it, and I don't know, let it sit there, I guess.
Not like we haven't all been busy, but I got to be honest with you. Since you just mentioned that, that's the first time I've seen or thought of the beer barrel since the Monday Night Chat.
You're over it. Eric Haynes passed the beer barrel, everybody.
No, I don't care. I'm over. Going to I'm over going to Lindsey Nelson Stadium and staking out for 7 hours a day. I'm over that. That's
ready to have your life back. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, my wife's birthday was Thursday, and we'll see if I have another birthday to celebrate with my wife next year. So
let's just say this airs on Saturday. Hopefully, it's over by then. Hopefully, it's all done. It's put to bed.
Praying emoji. 85-26-9, going back to October 21st, 1893. Vols are 40-15-3 on the road, 45-11-6 in home games. Tennessee's won 4 straight, 28-18 last year at home. Tennessee's won 8 of the last 10 matchups, the past 3 in Lexington. The last time Tennessee lost on the road at Kroger was 2017. Tennessee won 26 straight meetings from 1985 to 2010. And I don't have the stat, but I know they won like a ton in Neyland up until that Pruitt year in 2022, or 2020, 2020, comma 2 TOOO.
Right.
But nonetheless, this has been a one-sided series. Hopefully, Tennessee adds another win in that column. Let's go ahead and get to Jarrett. We'll talk to Jarrett, ask him about the loss to Alabama, what his thoughts are on that, how Tennessee responds. Looking at Cutter Boley, kind of what makes him tick a little bit. Zach Calzada is also on that roster. All that and more coming up with Jarrett Guarantano, former Tennessee quarterback, when we return. But first, let's get some housekeeping out of the way. Let's hear from our friends over at Spivey, King and Spivey, LLP. Want to give a shout out to the proud presenting sponsor of GameQuest. That is Spivey, King and Spivey, LLP. If you've got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is T&N Trial Lawyers. They specialize in criminal defense, family law, and personal injury, examples of which could be DUI, assault, divorce, custody, alimony, personal injuries such as car wrecks. Over 80 years of combined experience, Spivey, King and Spivey LLP provides representation throughout state and federal courts in Northeast Tennessee. The firm has a vast amount of trial experience. This practice has been in place for 43 years with this specific partnership of Matthew A. Spivey, J. Matt King, Richard A. Spivey. Great guys, big-time Tennessee fans since 2012. They have partners who are energized for today's modern legal demands. They practice primarily in Northeast Tennessee of the Tri-Cities of Sullivan County, as well as Hawkins County, Washington County, and surrounding areas. The firm has won multiple awards who have attorneys who have been rated by super lawyers in the Mid-South with real trial experience. Whether you've been injured in a car accident, need help with a divorce, help with custody of your children, or you've been accused of a crime, Spivey, King and Spivey LLP, they can help you. Go see them in person today at 142 Cherokee Street, Kingsport, Tennessee. Pick up the phone today for a free consultation. Dial this number, 423-245-4185. That is 423-245-4185. You can check them out online at Spivey, King and Spivey LLP.com as well. Spivey, King and Spivey, let them find a solution for you if you got a problem. That is TN Trial Lawyers. Also, we'll give a shout out to our friends over at Whataburger for being a part of GameQuest here today. At Whataburger, they believe a late night shouldn't prevent you from enjoying a hot, fresh, made-to-order meal. That's why they're open 24 hours a day, so you can get your favorite burger whenever it's convenient for you. Treat yourself to a Whataburger or a double Whataburger. Or what about a double Whataburger with 2 kinds of melty cheese, bacon, and grilled onions? Now we're talking Whataburger, just like you like it. Late night games, Tennessee and Kentucky this week. When you leave the stadium or when you're done with the game or whatever, go get a Whataburger. Late night, they're open. Whataburger. Hey, I want to welcome on the show as we do each and every week. Former Tennessee quarterback Jarrett Guarantano, an SEC Network analyst, if you will. At least last Friday morning he was when he joined SEC Nation. That was really, really cool. Or SEC This Morning, whatever this show's called, with Peter Burns and Chris Dorn. Did a great job there. He was on GameQuest every single week, and of course he was on the Rocky Top Rewind this past week. That is Jarrett Guarantano. Jarrett, it's interesting, man. I talked with Grant about this before we welcome you on, and you and I were chatting about it off air. It's one of those weeks where there's so much noise going on away from the football field, obviously with what's going on with Tennessee baseball, that like the fan base, I feel like, is not really thinking about this game. Me personally, since I cover baseball, I know the nuts and bolts of Kentucky, don't get me wrong, but I haven't even dove headfirst in this game yet. It's been one of those weeks where, and I don't necessarily think Kentucky's a good football team. I don't. But Kentucky can sneak up on you. They kind of muddy things up a little bit. They play Ole Miss good every single year. They took Texas, who I don't think Texas is very good, but took Texas to overtime. It's one of those games to where they're going to get up for this game because this is probably their biggest game every single year. It's on the road. You can never take anything for granted on the road. And Tennessee better have some maturity this week and go into Kroger Field, because it's like one of those games where I feel like nobody, I'm not saying the guys in the locker room, I'm just saying everybody else, the fan base, the media, we're not paying enough attention to this game. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like this is, like you said, like one of those sneaky swiper the fox type of games. Perfect for what Kentucky wants, right? When you look at the grand scheme of things, Kentucky's not a great football team right now. They want to be able to rev things up. So, like you previously said, this is one of Tennessee's biggest rivals in Kentucky, and it's been dated back for a very long time. And it's also a night game at Kentucky, which I've played in 2 of them in my career, and those things get rocking, right? Those fans show up. They're going to continue to show up, even if it's 2-4 for this game in specific. And right now around Tennessee, we have a lot of things going on media-wise, a lot of things happening. Not very good for what we expect as fans for somewhat, So there's a lot of distractions. We're obviously coming off a very tough, difficult game versus Alabama, in which things didn't go as right. That's what I was just doing. I was watching their our offense versus their defense. There was a lot of ups and downs in that game. A lot of really good positives, some things that I wish that we had back, but there's a lot of things that could go wrong for us this week. We have to continue to have maturity. We got to rely on our leaders, and we just got to go 1-0 this week in what's going to be a hostile environment, which is going to be Kentucky's biggest game of the year because it's their rival along with Florida. And they, like you said before, they always play Ole Miss well. But I think they're going to be ready to go. And Kentucky has something to draw from last week. They played Texas super well, and they realistically probably should have won that game. Those overtime play calls inside the 5 those are tough play calls, and they didn't execute very well. But they should have won that game. A lot of positive going into this one, and they see a somewhat of a wounded dog in Tennessee. Not saying that we are that, but they're seeing that, saying, oh, they just got off a tough loss. They're thinking about what's to come next week, Oklahoma. We're overshadowing. We're not taking Kentucky serious. This is one that can be very sneaky, very scary for us.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that. And I know you played on several Tennessee teams, and I would venture to say, I can't speak from personal experience, obviously, but I would venture to say some of the locker rooms were closer knit than others. That's the same for any year to year, right? But you're going into a game to where historically you dominate this series, right? And you're coming off a heartbreaking, tough loss in one of those games where, again, it's one of your biggest rivals and could really put you on the map. And just kind of the way you lost, it was deflating with just the way you went into halftime. That was so disappointing and stuff like that. Kind of how, and I know you're not a part of this team and you're not in that locker room, but I just keep saying maturity. Maturity's got to be on full display this past week. Maturity's got to be on full display going on the road in the SEC. How tough is it as a player to come off what was last week? Don't let Alabama beat you twice. Come off what was last week into a game to where it's like, oh, it's just Kentucky. No, you can't think that way, right? You can't think that way. How difficult is that as a player in the locker room, on the practice field throughout the week to kind of get out of that mindset?
I'd say, from my perspective, from my experiences, out of all the teams in the SEC, I believe that I played Kentucky the best. My first 3 years, freshman, sophomore, junior year, I think that statistically speaking as well, if you whatever grades-wise, I think I played my best football versus them. My senior year, we're beating Georgia at halftime, as you remember. Second half collapse. They come just in Kirby style. We don't score any more points, just like they did to Alabama this year. They don't score any points. They just play excellent defensively, offense clicking, they make adjustments. That was such a heartbreaking loss for us because we felt like we had it. We felt like we turned over a new leaf. We felt like that was our game. Okay, we're going to be a top 5 team in the country. This is finally it. And we go in and we lose, unfortunately. The same week, or the very next week, we play Kentucky. Bone-crushing loss. We at home. Unfortunately, I don't play my best football. There was game plan stuff. There was my play. There was a lot of things that we didn't do very well that game. We lose. And that kind of spirals the season down. And then after that, then it's, oh, this, that. Then the media gets a concern. It was COVID. It was a whole bunch of things. But that was my experience. We can't let that same type of thing happen this year. And I don't think it's going to, because I think that they are a better football team. And I think the leadership-wise, coaching staff-wise, player-wise, I think they're going to be ready to play. But like you said, we can't let this happen. We can't let this affect us. We can't let Alabama beat us twice. We can't go into this game saying, oh, you know what? We got Oklahoma next week at home. I'm excited to get home. Wear the black jerseys, whatever it is, night game. We can't think forward. And if we do think forward, or if we think about this loss too much last week, this Kentucky game can be a very, very close football game. And it scares me a little bit because I've seen it in the past. I don't think it's going to happen. But I have a little bit of nervousness, a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's playing on the road in this league, and you can never just take anything for granted. I mean, everybody wants to harp, and myself included, I've done it before, earlier this season as well. Josh Heupel on the road. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, compare his road record to everybody else's road record that's not named Nick Saban or Kirby Smart or somebody else. I mean, it's just tough. It's tough in this league. And
it's tough.
Yeah,
especially a night game. A night game in Kentucky is going to be like. Night games anywhere in the SEC.
Yeah.
And you talk about this is a real rivalry game. This is like not from, I don't know if we view it as that. Like, obviously, I know we have our Georgias, Alabamas, Floridas, but that Kentucky game for Kentucky alumni, they're looking forward to this one. They're circling it. And this couldn't have came at a better opportunity. They feel like they have some confidence coming off that Texas win or that Texas loss last week, just because they felt like, no, we could play better. Our defense is a good team. We could win this. Super scary for Tennessee.
And again, like fans, media, people like me, oftentimes ride the waves, right? Guy makes a great player. Guy misses a tackle, throws a pick. Oh, he's all just riding the wave, right? But inside that locker room, you got the Arion Carters, Andre Turrentines, Don Baileys, Bryson Easton's. Like, those guys are leaders on the offensive end. You've got your Miles Kitzelman, who is one of the best leaders on this football team. I think you've got some solid guys in Sam Pendleton and Deshaun Bishop. And, you've got, in my opinion, some pretty strong leaders on this roster on both sides of the football. So, the hope is that you get the mind right, you attack this week the way you need to. And also know, hey, you don't want to look ahead, obviously, but, as a player, and it's in your mind, right? It's like, we got to handle business, right? We have no room for error. You don't want to play like you have no room for error, so it's kind of a balancing act. But, like, if you want to make the CFP, you can't lose again. But, you can't get to 10-2 unless you win this football game. So I think that's important to remember as well. Let's look at this Kentucky team. From what you've seen so far, let's start with the quarterback play. They went out and got Zach Calzada. This is his third tour of duty in the Southeastern Conference. Started at A&M, went to Auburn, Incarnate Word. Now he's at Kentucky. Started the first 2 games, shoulder injury against Ole Miss. I think he was out for a little bit, but he's been available. He wasn't on the injury report last week that I saw. But they've been rolling with Cutter Boley. Cutter Boley, a redshirt freshman. I mean, numbers don't look great. 4 touchdowns, 4 picks. He is completing 64%, which is not bad. Efficiency rating's not bad as well. There's not a lot of down the field threat. I looked at his Pro Football Focus numbers. They don't try to stretch the field. He's really good in the short to intermediate game. What have you seen from however much film or games you've seen of Cutter Boley in terms of this quarterback matchup?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that changes between Calzada and Boley, I think Boley's a better athlete and he's able to make plays with his feet. I know Zach very well. Obviously, he was in college when I was in college. That was a long time ago, right? I think he's maybe 2 years or 2 classes below me. Very good football player, Calzada was. Make every throw. I think he's a little bit limited in his mobility. I don't think he's as good of a mover as Boley. And I think for this offense that our Kentucky team that always relies on their run game for as long as I've been in schools 10 years ago, a Kentucky team that can run the ball and play really good defense is always a threat. So the fact that Boley's ever able to do that, and he's also a younger body, he's going to be able to get critical reps this year. Hopefully next year, implies that he's going to be a better football player next year from experience purposes. But if they're able to run the football effectively versus our team, who hasn't really been tackling very much. I do think our defense didn't play bad football last week. I will say I think that playing cover one, some certain things, Alabama has a lot of weapons, and the fact that we were able to do certain things and play cover one and get critical stops. I know that we weren't able to pressure Ty Simpson. That was one of my key points. But if we're able to continue to tackle better, play better man-to-man coverage, I think that this will match up very well against this Kentucky team.
I do too. This is and again, you don't play the game on paper, and I was kind of Tennessee, Alabama. Obviously, Alabama's a good football team, but I thought Tennessee had the clear, I wouldn't say decisive, but clear advantage on line of scrimmage. I'm like, Tennessee's defensive line, nation leader in sacks, tops in the SEC and TFLs, all that. And then I look at Alabama's offensive line. It's like, man, they've given up 4 sacks each of the last 2 games, given up 13 sacks on the year. What an opportunity to go and get some. And Tennessee's offensive line tied for the fewest sacks in the league, and Alabama's defensive line or defense in general only had 9 sacks. So like, I kind of played that game a little bit, and it just didn't go that way. And that's football, right? And so I look at this game, and I haven't watched Kentucky a ton this year. I've seen them here and there, but I view this game as like, boy, you want to talk about getting a confidence booster. Feel good about yourself going in through the rest of the year, like defensively, because defense certainly needs that, right?
Yeah.
Offensively, Kentucky ranks towards the bottom in pass offense, total offense, scoring offense. They run the football about middle of the pack. I think this is such a great opportunity for those guys to go out there and make some plays, feel good about yourself. And speak from experience, man, when you are struggling or the team is struggling and you go and have a big win in terms of score against a team that's inferior, what's that do for the psyche of you? I mean, it doesn't hurt, right? You're probably like, well, they're not that good, but man, I balled out. Like, it does something to you. I think that's a great opportunity this week. You got to handle business, but a great opportunity defensively this week that they can just tee off and go play.
Yeah, for me personally, I feel like there was a couple games maybe my sophomore year where we didn't win, but I felt like I played super well, right? And of course, like as a quarterback, you always want to win. Every other position, you always want to be able to win. But if you play a super clean game, you play well, you're able to make plays, like there's just a little bit different of a feeling. So from Kentucky's standpoint of them sitting there saying this was probably their best all-around game that they played last week against a ranked opponent in Texas who just came off of a win beating Oklahoma. That's why this is hairy grounds for us. They beat Oklahoma. They're feeling good about themselves going to Kentucky. They're like, okay, we're going to probably walk all over them. We're going to beat them pretty badly. And they have a battle. And they probably should have lost that battle. So from standpoint of Kentucky, there's a lot of positives. And I know their head coach is saying the same thing. Like, listen, guys, like we were one snap away from winning this football game. We played excellent on defense. We can beat this team. Look at what Tennessee did last week versus Alabama. They turned the ball over. They gave up however many points, such and such. Like, this is a beatable team. It's a lot of positives that they can be bought up from their standpoint. And as players, you feel a little bit of a confidence booster in that locker room when you're like, okay, we just came off a good game. Like, let's continue to stack these. Like, that felt really good. Let's go out there and now let's go shock the world and go beat a ranked Tennessee opponent and go win this rivalry game. They have a lot of juice right now, a lot of ammo.
I don't have the stats in front of me, but Tennessee's offense against an SEC play has not been really good in sudden change situations. Defense forces a turnover, they muff a punt or whatever sudden change is. Like the offense hasn't, in those series that come after that, they haven't produced as well. What are the challenges outside of just being in full dialogue or on the headset talking to your OC and you're like, oh, gotta go? Like, what are the challenges in responding the right way in sudden change?
Yeah, I think sudden change is a thing that has to do with complementary football, right? It's something that has to be talked about throughout the week. Of course, the offense has to be ready to go, right? Quarterback has to be throwing a little bit. Offensively, your mind has to stay in the game. You got to be talking about what the next drive is going to entail, what our thoughts are, what we've been liking, what you got to do better. But when sudden change happens, it's as a sideline, you see everybody on the sideline jump up and down. It's like, oh, and then like everybody's ready to go. Offense is running on the field. Everybody has to just take a deep breath. And from our offensive standpoint, we are so much better when we get our first down. We're able to go tempo. We're able to get the chains moving. We're able to spread the football out. We kind of get in our little rhythm. When we don't do that and we get right into our 3 and outs like we've been doing, unfortunately, off of sudden change, that momentum shift from that turnover or whatever just happened, that fourth and whatever, if we get a 4th down stop, that momentum's like this and then it just flattens out. So we have to be able to just get one first down, play the play, stay smooth. I understand off of sudden changes, everybody in all of college football, every coach knows off of sudden change, be wary of a shot being taken. we have to understand that and possibly understand our inefficiencies and say, you know what, maybe we're not going to take the shot. Maybe we're going to go throw a screen. Maybe we're going to go maybe a draw, maybe a inside zone. Let's get the chains moving. Let's go get 5 yards, give Bishop the ball. We got to continue getting Star Thomas the football. We have to be in the minds of a defense in certain situations, and I think sudden change is the biggest one that we have to understand, play caller wise, quarterback wise, as an offense, that this is a time for us to impose our will and create momentum.
You look at the last couple of games for Tennessee, and have the defenses in the secondary specifically with the coverages, have they been playing Tennessee differently? Because last 2 games they've been limiting the deep shots. Tennessee didn't even attempt maybe 3 passes over 20 yards or more against Alabama. What's been the difference in Arkansas and Alabama trying to limit those big plays? And, vice versa, Tennessee's ran the football very well. So, again, it's all encompassing. But how can Tennessee get back to those explosives through the air?
Yeah, I think Arkansas and Alabama did it differently. Arkansas played more man-to-man than I was expecting. But they also were rotating coverages like I did not see on tape. So Alabama did the same thing. They played a 3-cloud where they would have a corner playing 5 yards flat, playing cover 2, and then they'd have a safety over top playing a deep third and playing cover 3 with the rest of them. Like, they were shifting coverages. They were staying on top of a lot of things. Even when they were playing true cover 3 or playing cover 2, their safeties were super far off. Even corners, they weren't even playing hard flats. They were playing super far off, like maybe at 10 yards. So they were forcing Tennessee to throw the ball underneath and go on longer drives. And that's a respect thing. I think that that's a positive for Tennessee when you look at it, like, all right, we're that explosive that teams are scared to play us underneath or play us man-to-man. Now what do we do? Now that's when we have to counter. We have to continue saying that, let's get our short to intermediate game. Like Joey's saying, all right, pre-snap, like these teams are going to continue lifting the coverage versus us. Let's just dink and dunk, throwing the ball underneath, having our screen game work out, RPOs obviously, and we just got to continue running the ball. I think Alabama, what they did effectively is they played that shell coverage. They played super far off, but then when you have a D-line that played as well as them, you can do those certain things. And I honestly, when you watch the tape, I think that we still ran the football well versus them. Of course, they had a couple of stops, but that's just where a defense has to give. So I think if the defense is going to continue playing super far off, we're going to have to continue running the ball, relying on that run game, and throwing the football underneath. Completions.
Yep. And again, without the 4 sacks, the rushing yards, look a whole lot better. So I thought Tennessee, I'm with you. I thought Tennessee ran the football really well, and Tennessee couldn't run the football against Alabama for so long. I guess the first 3 years, 2 years in the series with Heupel.
They even played a 3-down front a lot of the game. Like they went from varying a 3-down front or they would 4 down and then they would stem to a 3 down. They would have a 3 down and then actually roll the safe down. But most of the time, when you count it up, it's still a 7-man box. They still had 7 guys in the box playing some sort of single high coverage. And when they didn't, it was on passing downs, expecting them to throw the football. So they had a lot of guys in the box. And I said in my video, that's another big respect thing. Like Alabama and Georgia and those teams never felt the need to have to overload the box versus us, right? They were just like, no, they're a passing team. Let's spread this out. Like, let's play it too high and let them run the football. They showed a lot of respect going single high and bringing that extra safety into the box.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, man. So Tennessee, Kentucky, what are some of your keys for Tennessee to do what it needs to? Tennessee, at the time of this recording, I think it's like 9.5-point favorite on the road. Obviously the better football team. What does Tennessee need to do in order to have this convincing win that I think everybody's expecting?
I'd say first thing is start fast. You look back at the
21,
the Mississippi State game, and they didn't. I felt like it's just been some super up and downs, and I think especially on the road after last week's tough loss, we got to create positives early. So when you're sitting there, you're like, okay, what do we have to do? We just got to start fast. So I think Coach Heupel, like versus Georgia, when he had his first 15 plays, he had it dialed up. We got to have it dialed up where we have some shot calls. We have some things that we're able to go underneath with the football. We have to do those things and create long drives. Second, we have to have a big week on defense. I think this is the week where our defense gains some positivity, gains some confidence. I don't think their offense is completely overshadowing. I think it does match up well versus us. We got to be able to stop the run. Pass game, I don't think they're crazy effective. And then third, silence the noise, right? Obviously, there's a lot of noise right now in Knoxville. There's a lot of things going on, other sports-wise, baseball-wise, whatever it is. And there's also a lot of things going on with the media talking about Alabama and Tennessee's ranking, what Tennessee has to do next week versus Oklahoma. Silence the noise. Let's get to 1-0 this week. Focus on Kentucky. Rivalry game at nighttime there. Make this week count. And don't live with any regrets saying, I wish that we would have took them seriously. Now let's just go out there, handle business, and play our best form of football.
Jarrett Guarantano, former Tennessee quarterback. He does his film breakdown on his YouTube channel. So go ahead and where can we find your YouTube channel? What's that? Just type in Jarrett Guarantano. What do we do?
Probably Jay Guarantano, Jay, and then my last name, Guarantano. Guara.
Yeah, follow him on Twitter as well because you tweet all of your stuff out there. Do a fantastic job. He joins us on the Rocky Top Rewind from time to time, and he's everywhere right now. He was hosting the Swain event for a while. Again, I mentioned SEC Network, so Jay's certainly making the rounds. Appreciate it, man. Thanks so much, and we'll talk again next week. Hopefully, Tennessee handles business, and then it's another big one at Neyland Stadium.
Absolutely. Can't wait to see you, brother.
Welcome back into GameQuest. Tennessee and Kentucky getting set for another rendition of the Border War. That's what Josh Heupel called it earlier this week, the Border Bowl. Battle of the Beer Barrel. R.I.P. Going to bring that up. Man, I really, really wish we still had that barrel. It's going to be fun. Should be fun. Should be a little bit of a chilly night up there in Lexington, so that's going to be a whole lot of fun. You look at Kentucky, and again, we kind of talked about it's scrappy. I was listening to Matt Sims on the radio earlier this week, and he's like, at some point, Kentucky's going to get somebody this year. You hope it's not Tennessee, obviously. But on paper, again, this is a team that's obviously not very impressive. They're 2-4, 0-4 in conference play. They score 22.5 points per game. That's 14th in the league. 342 yards of total offense. That's 14th in the league. 186 yards through the air. Whew, that is 15th in the league. The only team worse is, do you know it?
No, fill me in.
Jackson Arnold, man. Come on now.
Oh, Jackson Arnold. Bless his heart.
Who's apparently going to be splitting reps this week. And
okay.
About time. Auburn is the only worst passing attack in the league. They average 155 yards on the ground a game. That's ranked 10th. They're 39% on third downs. They turned the football over 9 times. Cutter Boley is the quarterback, and he's thrown for 885 yards, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, completing 64% of his passes. He's okay. Redshirt freshman. He got a little taste of the action last year. Zach Calzada from when we talk about some of these great stories, Joey Aguilar's a great story. Jesse Perry's a great story for Tennessee. Zach Calzada going from Texas A&M to Auburn to Incarnate Word and now back to Kentucky, round 3 in the SEC. He got hurt in week 2 against Ole Miss and was out for a couple of weeks. He's been back, to my understanding. He's been available, but it's been the Cutter Boley show since then. So anyway, through the air, not very impressive. Kendrick Law, transfer from Alabama, came over. He's easily their best receiver. They use their tight ends, Josh Caddis, Willie Rodriguez. Willie Rodriguez, one-time Tennessee recruit, not a commit, recruit. Again, it's just not a whole lot to report about the passing attack so far for Kentucky.
It just feels like a team that's kind of stuck. Mark Stoops has been there how long now? A while, and it feels like they're kind of over it with Mark Stoops. But he
is the longest tenured coach in the conference.
Which tells you what you need to know about the SEC and how quickly it turns over, because it doesn't feel like he's been there that long. I know he's been there for a while, but it just feels I agree. They're going to get somebody at some point. Just don't let it be you. I don't know. Tennessee needs to be able to outscore this football team, obviously, because it seems like their offense struggles to do anything consistently, and the rate at which we've seen Tennessee score it. Obviously, the defense has been really frustrating at times and hard to figure out. For different reasons across all 3 levels. But, it's tough to win on the road in this league. It's going to be a close game. It's not going to be easy, but go up there and figure out a way to do it, because this is a Kentucky team that, like I was talking about, like they're probably over Stoops, but he's got that 45, however many millions it is, buyout that he's got to be paid within 45 days or whatever the numbers are, which is crazy. I don't understand how that ever got put into a contract. And
Who's
signed.
his agent? I want to give him a call.
That's a completely different story. Yeah, if you need representation, call that guy.
No.
But yeah, go up there and find a way to win a football game. This is a Kentucky team you think you're on the ropes. This team is, exponentially worse on the ropes, 0-4 in the SEC, and trying to figure out a way to win a football game. Just go up there and handle your business, man.
New Mexico State transfer Seth McGowan is the pretty solid running back. And again, I've said this several times this year, and I think he's had a fine year actually, but it's weird under Mark Stoops, man. He's at least had an MO in recent history, right? Salty defense, They're going to run the crap out of the football with one of the best running backs in the SEC, Benny Snell, C-Rod, Chris Rodriguez. Those names come to mind. Kavarius Smoke or whatever his name was. Like all those were really good tailbacks, right? Tight end play. They go out and get some talented receivers, and they go find a transfer quarterback. And like the unit's not been bad, but they've just never. I mean, the quarterback's never hit. It feels like, and again, I think this is the worst like group of skill that he has there this year. But I mean, at least running the football, they've been okay. McCown 476 yards on the year, 7 touchdowns, 5 yards a carry. There's a Star Thomas did not play with Seth McGowan, the New Mexico State transfer, but there's also a New Mexico State transfer on the offensive line. I believe you pronounce his name Shayaz Pete. Those guys did play together. I asked him earlier this week, so in case anybody was wondering, that is that. Defensively, they allow 25 points per game, 14th in the league, 365 on the on defense to 14th in the league. They allow 229 yards to the air. That's 13th. 135 yards on the ground. That's 11th. They've sacked opposing quarterbacks 10 times. That's tied for 9th, but that's the second fewest in the league. They forced 6 turnovers, all interceptions. They're giving up 40% of third downs. They're averaging 5.4 yards a play. No, yeah, that offensive line I forgot to mention. They've allowed 16 sacks, which is 5th most in the league. So defensively, again, there's nothing that's really super impressive. They got a couple of players who have been there a while. One of note is former Powell Panther Steven Souls. He leads Kentucky with 3 sacks from the edge. So I saw that, and I'm like, hey, that's awesome. That's a Rivalry Thursday alum. Had him on for 4 years.
Man, getting after the quarterback would be something that you needed it at Alabama, Ty Simpson. You didn't get it done. Tennessee's got it done very consistently throughout the season, except for in Tuscaloosa. I think they got 26 sacks on the year. I don't know where that ranks in the SEC, but it was first going into the Alabama game. So getting back on track there would be something that would be very encouraging and something that could change a game on the road in your favor. Offensively, I like the progress Tennessee has made in the run game, and they've been more consistent with it and more consistently productive in big plays and all that stuff. By doing so, that's taken away a little bit of the pass game, so it would also be nice. I'm kind of talking out of both ends of my mouth. Like I want the explosives in the pass game because we haven't seen those in a while, but you also want to keep doing what you've done on the ground because that's so important to this offense. So it's not like they need a get-right game, but if they could get right in both categories, and that's the recipe for winning on the road is playing good defense and running the football, like getting after the quarterback, run the football. If you can bring those explosives back, it would make you feel a lot better, I think, going down this stretch run. Because again, this team is extremely hard to figure out what their ceiling is, what they are, what the floor is, how low it could be too.
See, I do think this team kind of needs a get-right game. You know, Austin said it in the press box after the loss to Alabama. He was like, I'm calling it. Tennessee's going to win by multiple touchdowns. And I agree with him. I mean, I think this is a game in a series where that usually happens. A place where it's not the toughest to play in the Southeastern Conference, and you found success. Remember the start for Tennessee that it had in 2021 with Javonte Payton and Bayless Jones, like 3 plays, 2 touchdowns, whatever it was. I think this should be a get-right game. It's weird. They've been playing the back-end coverages a little bit different, so they've been limiting. They haven't taken as many shots, to your point. So the explosive hasn't necessarily been there. I think you got to find a way to break through that. Run the football well, throw the football effectively. Defensively, man, come on, guys. Like, defensively, this is not a good passing offense, so get after it. Just get after it. Tee off. Have a day, right? Feast on a lesser opponent. Like, get some confidence built up. I think Tennessee does need a get-right game in that regard because you're coming home and you're playing a really good football team in Oklahoma, and you know what you have to do the rest of the way. You got to win out. So you need to be feeling good about yourselves, and I think this is a game to where you can do that. Again, if your mind's right, if you're not going through the motions, again, you can't take anything for granted. It's a road game in the Southeastern Conference, and let's be real. This is a team that this is the game that's circled on the calendar every single year. So they are going to absolutely be ready. Do you remember the last time we were up there covering a game at Kroger Field? You had a bunch of the Kentucky players standing around where Tennessee was,
That's right. I remember that.
Barryon Brown was leading that charge. He's no longer there. And just staring them down, it's like, what's
going on here?
You lost the game before it started. So Devonta Spraggins, John Campbell, they had a few things to say. I know that's kind of shocking to think about. So anyway, I think you do need to get right, Gabe, and I think that Tennessee could do that, which leads us into our predictions. At the time of this recording, our friends over at BetMGM has this game at 9.5 points for Tennessee, road favorites. The total 54.5, so not a very high total. How do you think this game's going to go, and what's your score prediction if you have one?
I keep going back and forth. I'm going to pick Tennessee to win the football game. I'm going to pick Tennessee to win by one possession, I think I'm going to pick by 8 points, but I can't settle on a specific score. So I'm going to go 36-28. Because it keeps it within that one possession rule, because it's been a one possession game in Lexington for X number of years in a row, and I just don't trust this Tennessee team to either get a multiple touchdown lead or hold a multiple touchdown lead, especially on the road. You've shown you can't really do that at home with Arkansas and the way that thing turned out. So until I see it, it's hard for me to predict it or believe it, but I do think Tennessee wins the game. I do think it's a one possession. So I'll go 36-28, and I think that would be pretty comfortably on the over. So 36-28. Let's go with that.
The last two times Tennessee's been at Kroger Field, 2021 and 2023, mediocre quarterback play all year for Kentucky after big transfer portal acquisitions. Mm-hmm. But in that game, those guys went off. I mean, I remember Will Levis. He was averaging like 27 pass attempts a game or something. He had like 27 attempts in the first half against Tennessee, and it was booming, right? Devin Leary played really well against Tennessee in 2023. Don't let Cutter Boley do that, okay? Like, Cutter Boley's not as good as those guys, and those guys weren't very good except in that football game. Like, don't let Cutter Boley do that, all right? Don't let Kentucky's quarterback have a day on you when you're playing up there. So I don't think that he will. I think that this is a game that Tennessee is just going to kind of put out some frustrations. I've certainly got Tennessee covering. You don't have Tennessee covering the 9.5 spread if you have an 8-point win. Give me Tennessee winning by at least 2 touchdowns. So give me like, I'm feeling like a 38-21 type deal, because they're still going to get in the end zone a couple of times, right? So give me 38-21. Tennessee wins by 17, covers, and clearly that is hitting the over as well at 54.5. So
pretty sure Tennessee hasn't covered since Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while.
Was Tennessee a 6.5-point dog at home in that game, or?
I can't remember what the number was, but I think they covered the first 3 pretty comfortably, and then since then they haven't covered. I think they are 3-4 against the spread through 7 games.
Gotcha.
If I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Cool. Good deal. We'll see what's in store for Tennessee. Tennessee at Kroger Field against the Kentucky Wildcats. And again, I've said it all week, and everybody's getting so sick of me. This is so coach speak, but hey, can't get to 10-2 unless you get to 6-2 first.
Right.
You know, as Pat Summitt once said, as Tony Vitello often referred to, play where your feet are, right? Just be in the moment, and that's what Tennessee needs to do in this situation. Big thanks, as always, to Jarrett Guarantano for joining the show. Grant Ramey, I'm Eric Cain. Thank you, as always, to our friends over at Spivey, King and Spivey LLP for being the presenting sponsor of the show. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is TN Trial Lawyers. That phone number, again, for a free consultation, 423-245-4185. Check them out online at SpiveyKingandSpiveyLLP.com as well. Tennessee and Kentucky, we'll see what's in store. We'll be there with you every single step of the way right here at Volquest.com.